Hello, hello, everyone. This is Hillary and Clinton from Blacklantic.
This week, we are super excited to announce our guest. But first, let you know that if you are watching on YouTube right now, please hit that subscribe and like button. Whether you're watching live or after the show, you can find us on all audio streaming networks, especially like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, social media, Blacklantic on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And go ahead, Hillary.
We are here with Antwi-Adjei, the co-owner of 1949 Barbershop, located in, I don't even want to say yet. We're so excited. we are like sillily excited about where you are from. But I think it's time to play that intro and get us started.
Yeah. All right. Let's drop the goods. Yeah. Where are you coming from? Where are you live from right now?
I join you guys from.
Thinking about this for over a year now. We've been looking for a guest from Newfoundland because we're Black in Atlantic, not just Black in the Maritimes, and many people know. Maybe eye-opening to so many Canadians to know that there are Black individuals everywhere in the world, including Newfoundland.
Oh,
yeah. Welcome to the show, yeah.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Amazing. So you told us a bit about your day. How are you? How's your day?
It was quite busy. It's a normal day for me. Every day it's kind of busy. If I want to rest, I have to choose to rest. So
when you are an entrepreneur, consciously choosing to rest is very important.
Yeah, I think we both unfortunately live that life. So we feel you for sure. I feel like probably a lot of our listeners do too. So that's cool.
I work 7 days a week. So
you gotta do that for X amount of years, but make sure you gotta choose. You gotta choose. To take time off. You know what I mean?
The balance and
work-life balance.
Really difficult.
But I mean, sometimes when you're working, you're involved in sports and watching games. I mean, there's so much to know. Okay, so we're gonna get started. So in over a year, like we said, you're our first guest from Newfoundland, and from one changemaker to another, we're so glad we were able to find you through that nomination.
I'm honored.
Yeah, we've tried. We've tried to find guests, and it's been like so incredibly challenging. And maybe during this interview, you can drop some names to us of other people we need to look for, so we can have someone from Newfoundland every 4 or 5 weeks or something.
All right.
If you don't mind, can you just please start off by we want to have you tell us everything you can about what it's like to be Black in Newfoundland.
Imagine if you just stopped the sentence there. What's it like to be Black? Tell us. Like, I'm so perplexed.
Honestly, being Black in Newfoundland, I will speak specifically to St. John's because that's where I live now. And I must say, what I first thought of before coming here, it was a bit on the high side, but when I came, I realized it wasn't anything too strange. It wasn't like as people outside perceive this place to be. There weren't many like Blacks per se, but then the people here are really nice, and you get along very well and easy. Settlement is something that you will not struggle to get. So it was such a nice experience. Way like better than what I thought before coming here. So
that's amazing. That's good news. So not like no odd stares, no people backing away from you, really weird comments or offensive language.
On the contrary, like when I came, I was the one who was a little bit skeptical when I go out first week and you meet people and everybody's like asking you how you doing, how's the weather today, and all that. Like I kind of took aback. I felt like, oh, what's that? Because I stayed in Toronto a bit, so it was entirely different because Toronto, you don't get people, even like black, you don't get people approaching you to just open conversation in the least opportunity they get. So when I came here and predominantly white, it was kind of something that surprised me a bit. I had the cause to even complain to my roommate about my experience on campus the first day. I thought maybe no, this is a bit dodgy. I don't feel it's genuine. But over time, I kind of realized that's how the people here are very welcoming, and most of them are kind of a bit, I would say, inquisitive, and in a positive way. So you find one or two people who are a bit off, but that's everywhere. And I see mostly those are born out of ignorance, people who don't really genuinely know anything about what you are about and where you are from and all that. Yeah, because we get a question a lot, like someone comes to you and they ask you a question about Africa, like, oh, I know this person, do you know him?
Oh wow.
Yeah, like
We've had that.
you cannot blame a person like that, because you can tell it's sheer ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Thinking that, oh, for instance, I'm from Ghana and somebody from, say, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, and they think, oh, because you are the same color, so you might know them. So
That's ridiculous. Yeah, you get that. Like that's just, but that's overall a good story. So yeah,
that's
Newfoundland, St.
normal.
John's, Newfoundland's passing the racism test at the moment. That's great. Some real Atlantic hospitality.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah.
And like when we say black, we're just using that as a blanket statement. We realize there's black people from the Caribbean, from Canada, people who come from Africa and don't necessarily think of themselves as black until they get to Canada, right? They think of themselves as Ghanaian or something like that, or the country that they're from. Whereas, once you come here, you're labeled as black.
Oh yeah.
But you mentioned, you're from Ghana, and you know what?
I have a question.
Think you're also likely our first guest from Ghana. You have a question?
Yes, I have a question. You have to ask the first question. Slow down.
But I just want to know. You mentioned Ghana. I want to know what Ghana's like. We didn't have an arrangement about 1-1. It could be 2-2. We need to talk more about this. I want to know about Ghana. What do you need to know about?
Did you kiss cod? Have you been invited into Newfoundland culture?
All right, that was a good one. That was a good one.
In my head, I'm like, ain't no black person kissing a fish for no reason.
Interrupting.
Unfortunately, I haven't been preached yet. But I'm married to a Newfie lady.
So you can say the word Newfie, right? Yeah, you're allowed to.
Yeah, but
you got the pass.
She's been trying, but it hasn't worked yet. I haven't kissed the fish yet.
But you're screech adjacent, so I think that just avoid it. I don't eat seafood, so for me it's the most disgusting thing I think I would be asked to do, and I would do it. But
I've done a couple of things that are not typical like me. I've been on a moose hunt,
Nice.
So
very nice. Have you eaten moose meat?
Oh yeah,
it's good, eh?
Oh, lovely.
Moose meat, moose meat's real good.
Well, Maritimer through and through now. There
very
you go.
Healthy, yeah.
Yep.
So I've done that. I've done fishing and all that. So gradually I'm getting into the local stuff, right?
Do you live in one of those multicolored painted houses on one of those rows, like traditional St. John style?
Oh, that's a downtown thing.
Okay.
I try to live away from that. I find those places too busy for me, and like I said, I'm not a big city fan, so that should tell you. I didn't like being in Toronto much, but I had no idea until I moved. So now I can say with confidence that I'm not a big city person.
Okay. Did you live in a big city in Ghana, or were you
Oh,
countryside,
sure.
suburbs?
Yeah, I grew up in a big city. Like where I was born, it's almost like over 3 million population.
Mhm.
And where I had my university education, it's over 3 million as well. That's the capital city, Accra. I was born in Kumasi, but I moved to Accra to do my university education. So I live in both cities, which is highly populated, and I would say that's a big city. And
Okay.
coming to Toronto was similar because Toronto is more diverse, very, very diverse. So that was very cool. And then
Absolutely.
here I am, Newfoundland.
Yeah, right across the water to Toronto to Newfoundland. But
Yeah.
again, I think you may have been our first guest from Ghana. And like you said, people like they hear you from Africa and they say, "Do you know this person?" What a lot of people are starting to realize, but don't really realize, is that Africa is huge,
It's
complex, full of
huge,
54 different countries with probably
huge.
thousands of different cultures,
Yeah.
and probably thousands of languages, if not hundreds of cultures.
Yeah.
So to our listeners and even to us, because I don't know much about Ghana, and I don't know if you do, Hillary, can you tell us about like what your personal experience was like growing up in Ghana, how it's influenced your life and your work and who you are, and just what the culture is like? Can you paint a picture of Ghana for us?
Ghana is I would say in West Africa, and it was colonized by the British, the Portuguese at some point, and we gained independence back in 1957, and since then we've been self-governance. So that is a bit, and we are in the coastal belt. Ghana is actually in the, I would say, center of the world. We are very on the equator, so our time is 6 to 6. There's no time difference, excuse me. So you wake up, if you wake up 6 in the morning, it's the same 6 in the morning every day. So it's not
Oh,
like you wake
yeah.
up one day and it's bright and you wake up the other day it's dark. No. So 12 to 12, that's how the time runs. So you can even tell a time by looking at the sun and your shadow. That's easy. And that Ghana is predominantly a Christian country because we have other religions, Islamic religion, we have the traditional religion and others, but predominantly about, I would say, 70 to 80% Christians. So yeah, and I was born in a Christian home. I was raised as a Christian, and I'm a Christian.
Okay.
I I I grew up in a big family. My dad, we're a lot. My dad, I would say, populated this world.
Somebody's got to. Somebody's got to.
Yeah.
You have a lot of siblings. Okay, yeah, go on.
Yeah, at least I would say 18. Yeah, so that's how many we are.
Wow.
And
Cool.
growing up, I would say I was one of the few lucky ones. My family, I wouldn't say was rich per like standards of today, but then considered worthy. They were okay. And my dad actually did what he could with the help of my mom to give his kids education. And that's one good thing that I always talk about. To give your kids education should be a priority. It shouldn't be like a choice. You have to do it. So we were lucky to have education, and I'll say last but two. So I have two other younger siblings. One is in Toronto, and the last born is still back in Ghana.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and we have Ghana is a country that is blessed with a lot of natural resources. We have gold, cocoa, timber, bauxite, like name it. We have a lot, and it's one of the most peaceful countries on the continent. We've had uninterrupted democracy since 1992. We've had several elections, different governments, different parties, different, and we are still on like that. So it's been peaceful. We have an educational system that I always pride myself of. It's quite good. The only challenge is the limitations as to access, but in terms of quality, it's quite up there. So that's a bit about Ghana.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was good. I feel
That's
like
great.
I have a picture, a very
Yeah.
much better picture of Ghana in my head now, and so do our
Yeah.
listeners.
That's
Thank you.
amazing.
We do have a lot of scenes there, like tourist attractions and stuff like that. Good beaches and food. I would say the best.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of
we
course.
have
Yeah.
we have varieties. We have a lot of. I'm sure you've heard of jollof. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. My
It's
family
a-
makes it, even though we're, I guess, appropriating a version of it anyway, because we make mafe. There's a couple of other dishes, but then my stepmom will try to make some jollof.
Yeah, I can make the bold claim that the best comes from Ghana.
Of course.
I'll relinquish. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I won't
I'm not
argue.
gonna
Yeah,
say.
no argument.
So I'm
All
curious what then brought you from Ghana, which sounds amazing, to Toronto, to Newfoundland, finally as your current landing spot.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I came to Canada for education, like for school. And as I mentioned earlier, access to education back home is really competitive. And you have to also have the financial muscle to go through the higher educations, even the lower ones. Until recent time, every level of education had to be paid for. And luckily now we have free education up to high school, which is good. And that, I think, started in 2020, I'll say 2012, around that there about. So it's not long time ago, but it's making a big change in the society. And after I finished university, I did a little bit of work. I worked for my brother's company, Info Builders, and I had the opportunity also to work for UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund. I worked for Ghana Statistical Service, and I also did a little bit of contract for Ghana Judicial Service. So I was in the corporate sector for a bit, and growing up, my family we can't even, like, right from the top to bottom. Everybody tries to do something on the side. You have your main job and the side, and so I'll say I've been at it since I was a kid. So
So
that's
then was being a barber, like, did that start as a side hustle? Like, how do we get into that being like, because now you're co-owner, it doesn't sound like a side hustle. So like, because I understand that life. My dad is like, are you gonna go back and get your master's, but also you are working a job and have 7 other things? And I'm like, yeah, sure, dad, when I can like make a whole new calendar. So I'm so curious how you got to this
uh,
point of founding 1949
yeah.
Barbershop.
Uh, I started. I would say I was like 11 when I started learning how to cut hair. My uncle used to cut hair. His name is Mafo. Back in like 90s, he every time that I finish school, I go to his place and try to help out. And he taught me a few things, and I was quite creative, so I was able to pick the arts really fast, and that's where I started from. But in my family, education, education. You can be whatever you want to be, but you have to get education first. So even though I was doing barbering at early age, I was still in school. So I didn't take it as a full time thing at any point. I think a bit I did work in a barber shop um for roughly a year or so when when I started high school. Yeah. So that was the only time that I formally worked in a barber shop my whole time in Ghana. And the rest is just cutting friends, my family, like teachers and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I kept doing this as a hobby the whole time. And when I got the chance to move from Ghana, I didn't want to do that again because doing my master's and you don't think of anything like barber. Because I'll say this, I don't know if you where you guys are from, but where I'm from, we we don't really regard like handiwork, mason, barbering, like fitting jobs and stuff like that. We don't really regard them. So there's no prestige and it doesn't also pay. So if you get education to a higher level, it's like almost a 0% chance of you becoming any of these like well-paid jobs here in Canada. Becoming a plumber, becoming a mason, and those things. Back home, it's more like a preserve for school dropouts or truants, kind of it. It just now it's changing because like everything is moving forward in the positive direction. So that's what I'll say. But when I came to Canada, I didn't have any idea or I had no interest at all in becoming a barber. But I worked while I was in school. I worked in certain places and the kind of troubles that like every average student, like immigrant student, international student go through working alongside schooling. It was a bit difficult. So one time my friend who I was with in Toronto, his name is Kofi, he he once suggested to me because I always complain about where I was working. And he actually said, but you know how to cut hair. I don't know why you still keep working at this place. Working at a place where you are being paid less than a minimum wage. So he brought the whole idea but I didn't know where to start from. So he took me to a friend at the same church who was working at a barber shop, and then introduced me to him. So he asked us to come and see him at the shop. I obliged and we went, and I tried that on my friend, cut him there, and like everybody was like, "Wow, you're good." But the problem was they wanted to have me there full time, which I was a bit skeptical because I didn't know if I was gonna earn so much to cover my rent and other things. So I first declined that I can only do part time, just weekends. But over time, they also agreed for me to come for the weekends. I went for a few weeks, and then I just fell in love with
Became your thing.
my hobby. So,
And this was still back in Toronto, right?
yeah.
So then you decided to come out to Newfoundland. Was that for work, or did you meet someone, or did you come out to Newfoundland with the intention of starting a barbershop? What happened there?
Not really. Newfoundland was a last minute thing. I was trying to find an affordable school.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was too expensive in Ontario. So
What university did you end up at? Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say you went to Memorial, right?
Memorial University.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Memorial University. So it was like, in comparative term, it was very affordable. Yeah. So that's the main reason why I came. And coming here, the intention was just to come finish school and go back to Toronto.
I hear that.
Yeah. Because I quite remember I was doing quite okay at the time that I was moving from Toronto. So I would say my godfather there, Reverend Douglas Osuansa, he was of the view that why would you leave a place like Toronto where you are gradually settling in, you're doing good for yourself, and moving to a place where even if you decide to do what you do here, it's not possible because there are no blacks. So that was his concern at the time. But like I said, I was so much into education thing, so I decided not to listen to anything. Just go. Once tuition is cheap, I'll just finish school and then decide what next. So in 2016 January, I landed in Newfoundland. Cool, really cool time. It was really cold.
Cold.
Like, yeah.
Was it windy? Because
when I came, yeah, it was a bit windy, but the problem I had was when I came, I still had my Toronto experience with the winter, but then there was one time that I think the first week it was -9 here, and -9 in Toronto is nothing. So you can just put on your sweater and sneakers and you are gone. So I did that here, but I had a terrible experience, man. I went to wait for a bus. I was heading to a motor registration just to have my license changed. And I stood by the roadside for about 15 minutes waiting for the bus, man. That was a terrible experience. I started feeling numbness in my toe, my hand, like my ears. So I kept looking on my phone. I thought maybe I didn't read the weather well, or maybe my phone is still set to Toronto or something. So I kept checking that. Really, it was -9. Say, man, I'm not going to survive here. It was so cold.
But you weren't wearing the thick winter socks, right?
Yeah,
No.
no.
Yeah, you got to wear those thick winter socks under
and
your
I
shoes.
was out. So It was terrible experience. I've never like had that, because at some point when I went to the motor registration, I was coming back. It got to a point that like I was shaking so much. Somebody was just driving by and stopped, because the guy saw the way I was shaking.
Someone had to save a life that day, right?
Oh yeah, he stopped, and his name is Israel. Up to now, I still connect
course.
with that
Oh,
guy.
that's sweet.
Yeah,
Of course. Wow.
I still connect with that guy. He gave me a ride, and that I said, man, you saved a life.
Exactly. You may have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I decided to come to Newfoundland. But then when I finally moved here, I met one of the best people that I have encountered in my life. So that was one main reason I'm still here. The people in Newfoundland, and particularly my family and my best friend and a business partner, Gustavo, my wife Julian. They are the two main like reasons that kept me here.
That's amazing. That's so sweet.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I ran away from all my loved ones to come to Toronto, and I always joke that I flip-flopped with Clinton in terms of space, but that's That's very sweet. I do want to ask too, though, and we're gonna get into your work with like soccer teams and stuff like that. But I'm curious, like how the work that you've done plays a role in like your advocacy work and like your influence in the Black community that now exists in Newfoundland, because it seems like you're really, you were named a changemaker for a reason.
yeah, the things that I've done in the community, I serve on anti-racism working group for City of St. John's committee. I'm also
so shocked that they have one. Wait, I was like, they have one? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry.
I am an ambassador for Lululemon. It's all about like inclusion, so that's another thing. And the soccer team, it came about like when I came here. It's the experience I got and the help that I got from the team that I joined actually motivated myself and my business partner Gustavo, to actually set up a team for the barbershop.
Okay, you not only sponsored, you set up the team and created it.
we have
Wow,
teams that are like 1949 FC. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
We were runner up in the last league, so it's not just anything. So we are very like sports inclined, myself and my business partner Gustavo, and because of that, like every day since he got me into the team, all the people that I met there, whenever you need help, it was easy to connect with them and stuff like that. So I kind of realized it's a good platform to help those who really need help. And it's a common thing for immigrants and minority groups to always have demands, like need every now and then. So that was a good thing, and we got into that. We set up the team, and my team had the largest roster in the entire league. Actually, my roster could have put in 3 teams.
Wow.
Yeah, because sports is one thing that like binds people. It's kind of help people to integrate into every society, and it doesn't know bounds when it comes to language. Like in the world of sports, we all speak one language. So that was a good thing that we got ourselves into. So after setting up the team, then we decided to get into sponsorships. So we were supporting junior basketball teams, Rock Elite, and in fact this year that's the first time that we decided to support a hockey team for the first time. So we tried to get into other sports just for the community. That's it. And I think we're doing our best. So I have the masters team, I have the intermediate team, and this year 1949 and one Mampel community here also putting up a challenge cup team, which is the highest level of play you can have in the province. So
Okay. So it's 3 quick questions. So I'm just imagining in my mind that this gigantic roster that can make 3 teams, and it doesn't matter what the answer is, but are these players mostly black? Is it a combination of black, white players? Is it mostly white?
we have mostly blacks, but
Wow.
we have other race also.
That's
But
great.
then,
I mean, I'd imagine,
yeah,
but I'm
we
trying to
have
imagine in my head how many black people are in St. John to begin with to have 3 rosters.
a lot,
Are there
but
hundreds? Are there thousands?
thousands.
We are bad at finding them.
Yeah.
we need to work on that.
Thousands, yeah, because
Wow.
the Ghanaian community alone, we're talking about, I would say 200, and I'm also like directly involved in my community as well, the Ghanaian
Yeah,
community.
of course you are.
Yeah,
We're so
so
glad to
I actually am one of the executives, also the president of the Ghanaian Association.
President of the Ghanaian Association,
Yeah.
working for the anti-racism community of St. John. I'd love to know a little bit more about what you do there and what it's like for them, just like quickly. And I actually forgot my third question, so we'll stick with those 2.
Yeah, it's for the Ghanaian Association, actually, we just try to help newcomers settle and also offer them a platform where they could seek for help and needs when they settle in St. John's or like Newfoundland. And like we've had a lot of people who were part of the group and after school moved out to different provinces, and we are still connected with the group. So it's something that is helping everybody. And
Amazing.
also yeah, the anti-racism working group, it's kind of a new thing. We inaugurated it last year, and we've had our second general meeting, and it's chaired by Dr. Giwa. I'm sure you know Dr. Giwa. He was one of the
changemakers.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the chairman of that committee, and in fact, we've been discussing our scope of work and what the committee set out to do and all that. So it's a work in progress.
That's amazing. I'm curious, like, are politics in the future? Like, how, like, I feel like I knew Changemaker and I knew doing wonderful work, but like for the list, like, I feel like you should be, that you're championing so much already over there that you should just, you know what, do continue to work 7 days a week. Take on politics, make more change. Sleep later. Who needs sleep?
I don't think that's
I disagree, for the record.
Yeah. But Yeah, on
Get down to
the
6.
lighter note, I did have um political ambition, but that was like back home, Ghana.
You're a great storyteller, so you know
Yeah.
you can speak. I can tell that you can speak continuously on end. So you'd
Yeah.
give good political speeches up on those platforms for sure.
But not anymore. No,
And I mean,
I want to stay in my lane, be like the entrepreneur that I am, and also help my community whichever way that I could.
it could be that in the future those two paths collide, right?
I'm like, you
I'm
know how you
just
could help your community? Run for the election. Be mayor.
I gotta be honest, I can't remember where, but I've been to St. John's, Newfoundland. This was like 5 years ago. My sister lived in St. John's. Her husband went there to work for a year or two, and they had a house. And my sister was the best tour guide ever. They were moving back to Halifax. Her husband went ahead of her. They had a standard car, so she needed help driving it. So I went there and I stayed there for a week. You know, she took me to like the island mines and the Signal Point,
Signal Hill,
downtown, all over the community. All the sites, we saw them, and then we drove across Newfoundland and we stayed at Grossmore National Park for a few nights. It was just a great adventure. And
this place is beautiful. Trust me.
I used to think Victoria, BC was the most beautiful place in all of Canada. And then after spending a week in St. John, like I wasn't sure. It's definitely a second and a close first. And you'd be surprised. I went there in September. Blue skies all week, sunny, not cloudy, not foggy, didn't rain. Damn, it was windy.
You're lucky then.
But I don't recall seeing African or Black people. And that's why I'm really shocked, because we were everywhere you could possibly be. And
it's a recent thing. You know, I came in 2016, and even at the time, you could barely, like, the Black community wasn't that visible. Not that we didn't have Blacks here, we did, but
or maybe you did, but you weren't as comfortable intermingling with the rest of the city. Did they stay in on the universities or in their communities or in their groups?
I would say
that's what Moncton was like.
Most of us were students as well, so you can imagine. And
well, that's great.
Our barbershop is the first like Black, I would say, barbershop here in the province. And it's not too old, so you can imagine. But within this short period, there's been like a big difference. You can't even imagine how like different this place and how diverse all of a sudden this place has become.
Wow. So you're kind of an ambassador and a mentor just by your life, right? Just by how you wake up every day and everything you're doing. I mean, you are a shining example of what is possible in Newfoundland, whoever you are, even if you are an immigrant from another country and like a very visible minority at first, like just through waking up every day. Like we were trying to ask you how you advocate and how you do mentorship, and you obviously do, because you're the president of the Ghanaian Association and you're on the anti-racism community. But I think, like, you know, kids must just, whether they say it or they just must admire you, like immigrants coming to the country being like, wow, look at what he's doing, I can do anything. I don't know if that's not really a question, but you can agree or disagree. I mean, is that, have you ever gotten feedback like that?
We've all had those experiences. Like, if I might say, we've all at one point have had somebody who was inspirational and a motivation to some of us. And I will not deny that, like, where I've come to, it's like help that I receive from people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always go with like open heart. I give my all, whatever that I try to do, and thank God I always meet people with like positive energies, people who are willing to succeed and help you succeed as well. So it's been good, and that's one thing that always like motivates me also to give back to the community in any small way that I could. It's what we are doing, I wouldn't say it's like big, but at least once you have one or two people who feel okay in where they are because of what you're doing, I think that's satisfying enough. Yeah.
Amazing.
It only takes one or two people to start to make, a very big difference as I sit with two change makers. So clearly, I'd like to think that we're all doing something a little bit right.
Hillary knows she's a change maker. There's so many change makers. This was one company's nomination and recognition, and they had to pick people. And Hillary doesn't even live in the Maritimes.
That's the thing.
But,
I think I'm a change. Like you're screeched in by proxy. I'm change maker by proxy. Like it's the business partner with the business I'm in. So I'm
that's
like,
not what I meant.
I'm changing things. But I am curious. So anyone who's like looking up to you in this way, who is interested in, either being a young entrepreneur or advocating for change in their communities, what advice would you give to someone who not necessarily wants to be on the change makers list, but wants to, have this kind of great impact or follow their dreams?
I always first talk about education. I would advise that if only you have the means and the chance and the opportunity, give yourself education, whichever level you can get to. Just give it, and that will open a lot of doors. Thankfully, where we find ourselves now, there are a lot of opportunities that if you meet those opportunities prepared, you actually get your way somewhere, because opportunity is only good when it meets you prepared. So I would say there are plenty of it around, only that we need to be prepared to meet those opportunities, and we shouldn't look at our where we're coming from, our skin color, or nothing should be a limitation for you to at least do whatever you can in life to support you, your family, and your immediate community. And there's one thing that I think it was Nelson Mandela, the late Nelson Mandela. He said, education is the most powerful tool that could change. If you want to change something in the world, education is one of the most powerful tools that you can use to change the world. And I believe that is true. And also Jerry John Rawlings, the late Jerry John Rawlings, former Ghanaian president, he once said, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So that resonates with a lot of things that I've experienced. And I think education will be the first thing that I'll tell any young person that is trying to make something in life. And also on the moral side, I would advocate for respect for everybody. It doesn't matter their age, their sex, whatever, color. Respect should be something that we should be more concerned.
There should be more of that around in our world, in society today.
Exactly. The society that we live in today, it looks like a lot of those moral issues are being eroded. And
Okay.
if you are a young person trying to get somewhere, you have to also have that as part of you.
I feel what you're saying on a deep level for sure. It's you're implying society needs to sort of gone a little bit wild and polarized and like extreme
Yeah.
and where we treat each other in anger. And I'm sure it's
Very.
not the first time in history, but people need to come back to the center and like
Yeah.
recenter ourselves. You spoke about young people, and I wanted to ask you a question about young people and anyone. You spoke about education, so this relates to that question, and of course respect. But other than those things, how can people interested in change create more inclusive spaces and environments for Black individuals in Canada?
I think there are bodies that are like largely doing some great work in that regard. And like I can mention a lot. And we should support those causes. I would say having like a safe space and inclusive one for everyone, not just Blacks, but any minority group,
100%.
go a long way to help the developmental progress of every society. And we are here as Blacks, so we form part of the minority group, and we deserve that space as well. So, in any way that we can, we should, like in a small way, we should create that space of, like it said, what this, it starts from home. If you can create that space in your house, then when you step out, the probability that you create the same space out there is high. So within ourselves, we can make those changes.
Yeah,
It must not start on a large scale, but if within ourselves we can make those changes, it will like transcend. And for all you know, you emit those attributes in the community, in the society, and then
absolutely.
we all become like
Better. Like,
better. Yeah.
I agree, and I just wanted to point out quick before we ask our last question, or possibly the last question. Like Hillary and I always talk about Black people on the show because we're talking about what we know and our experiences, and it's what we've chosen to focus on. But when we talk about making things better and more equality and rights for all, like we're talking about, all people of color, all races, all minorities. And you think back to like civil rights movements in the States, and Black people being written into the Charter of Rights in Canada, and a lot of the protests and fights and social movements that have taken place because of Black people taken to the streets over the years. Like it always has been work to improve equality and improve and fight racism for everybody. It all trickles down. So thank you for mentioning that, not just for Blacks and inclusive safe spaces for Blacks, but for all people, all minorities, anyone facing any kind of oppression, or anyone who doesn't feel comfortable in their environment.
Yeah.
And I must say, like in Newfoundland, in St. John's in particular, like the Black Lives Matter group and other like groups have been like at the forefront, and it's been loud enough the last couple of years. So I think it's a good cause, and we all try to support any way that we can.
Okay.
And it's going to be better for all. So that's what I think we should do.
We have just under 5 minutes left before StreamYard will kind of cut us off there.
Yeah. The last question very quickly is just what your hopes and goals for the future of the Black community in Canada and beyond are.
I feel it's natural that we are evolving, and it doesn't take anybody to stop that. It's going to happen. Society will always change, because I see society as a living being, and it's not like static. It will change. But my only concern is, what kind of change are you hoping for or like causing? And that's where I like zero in on our own community, the Black community. What kind of change are we expecting to happen in this near future? Are we expecting to occupy space, the equality and whatever that we are fighting for? Is it just to occupy spaces? No, we need to make a positive impact in the community, in the society that we find ourselves, such that years down the line, another generation will come and they won't face the same challenges that we face today. If we are not able to do that, then we fail them.
Exactly. Exactly.
So my goal for the Black communities, we should keep fighting. It's not easy these days. I must admit, it's not all that easy, because we all listen to the news, we all follow current affairs and stuff like that. But then there's still hope that we can make a positive impact in the communities that we find ourselves. I started the barbershop with my partner, like a barbershop that was predominantly Black race. Now it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I still serve the Black community, but in percentage terms, I think I serve more of like other race,
everyone,
than I do serve the Black community.
Oh, more. Okay.
So that is how, like, if you create a safe environment where everybody feels welcome, you kind of live as one. My barbershop, I would say, is one of the freest environment. Yeah, you can say anything you want. You like, no filters, no censors. We don't limit anybody. We allow people to express themselves, and it's maybe one or twice we've had people taking issues with such expressions, but then it's just one or two. There's several issues.
All right, I just understood what you meant. Yeah,
we let people talk about freely, and that's it. So
Okay.
I think, like, by we're getting there. Now that space is not occupied by only Blacks. It's shared, and we are still getting along. We are still talking about sensitive issues. If you ever get to the barbershop and you hear someone using the word Black, now it's so offensive to use certain words when you are in public spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which shouldn't be. Right.
Yeah.
So I think we will get there.
Fingers crossed.
We think so too. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Baby steps, right? Like moving the bar. We're going to wrap up. We're going to we feel like we could talk to you for hours. We actually didn't even ask all the questions we had prepared. We are going to drop all your socials, and we're going to ask you for which socials you want us to use for your barbershop, Lululemon ambassador, your soccer teams, everything. We're going to share those socials. Thank you so much. Yeah, for being our first guest from Newfoundland. It was amazing. I'm Clinton Davis. This is Cropberry. If you haven't already, like us, comment, subscribe, and we are
out
of here.
That's it.
Thanks to you guys. Thank you so much, guys.
Don't leave yet.